Welcome back to the lecture. In this lecture, we're going to be talking on classes and objects. So in Python, we have what is called a class. So let me give you an example. Why is a giraffe like a sidewalk? Because both a giraffe and a sidewalk are both things, you understand? So basically in Python, or in an object allows us to organize things that have similarities together to make our code more reusable and more concise. Yeah. So, for example, this we can see this is our parent object, and the inanimate and animate inherits from things, while sidewalk inherits from inanimate, and animals inherit from animate, mammals inherit from animals, then down. So you can create an object that organizes your code and you can inherit things from it. So, for example, the list object we've been using is a form of object, is a Python defined object. So let's up in and let's do some more explanation. So to create an object, you need to use the class keyword followed by the object name. And when we are creating an object, we use what is called the camel case. For example, we want to say inanimate. We use the first word to be capital letter, then the next word inside, say inanimate. Instead of using this underscore, use capital letter A, inanimate. Then you pass in your parentheses. Yeah. Then your objects method, which are like functions, but they have what is called the instance. So this is your object, but it must take in, each object must take in the self variable name. What this does, it simply tells Python that this method or this function inside the object is a method that is only possible when this object is instantiated. So this is your method. So let's move on to the code and let's see a real life instantiation of an object. So first, to create an object, you use the class keyword. It has to be small letters, class key. It is highlighted, and we say we create an object. Let me use the class example. In a game, when you are creating a game, you have creatures in your games, right? So to create those creatures, those creatures, they have attributes and actions that they can perform, right? So these creatures, to create those creatures, we have to put those attributes and actions that those creatures can perform into a template that we can use to create multiple other creatures in your game. For example, you want to create a goblin, a wizard, an animal, depends on the creature you want to create. They have some similarities and they have some things that are different about them. So to create this, that's where your class comes. It allows you to organize the creature you're trying to create in a manner that you can easily add things to it, remove things from it, and it will still work and you still understand the code you're writing. So let's create a creature variable, a creature class, and we'll create our init method. And what this method simply does, it means this code that is in here will run regardless anytime this class is being called, is being instantiated. So this is your init method. So this method now must take in the self keyword. All object-oriented programming language, when you are creating a class or an object, they always pass in the initialization. They always pass in the object itself as a variable to the methods. So when you are calling it, you need to call it with the object itself. So what this will say is, let's just print creature created, right? Then what we want to add unique variable items to our creatures, right? So we want to get the name of the creature and its health status. Health status, right? So when we are creating the objects, we'll be passing in the name of the creature and the health status. So to create an attribute, so in a variable created inside an object is called an attribute. Now, to create an attribute, first and foremost, we must reference and must say, okay, this attribute name that we are creating is a part of this object. So we are going to create an attribute that says the object. So this is your object. When you instantiate your object, it's assigned to this self, right? So we want to create an attribute that is unique to just this object that you have, this object that you have just instantiated, that you have just created, right? So I will explain this further when I actually print our code. So this is it. So now, what you passed in from the user now, which is this, you are now going to assign it to this instance of your object. So we are going to pass this in here. Then self dot health as well. Then we are going to assign the user passed data in. So now we are going to create another method. This is another method. We call this display info. And remember what I told you, that to declare a method in a class, you have to always pass in this self variable. You can change the name, but conventionally, according to the PIP standard or the PIP type, you must name the name of the object itself as self. Okay, made a mistake. Let me just copy this and paste this in. Let me make a mistake here. Okay. Then let's just print feature is feature name and health. So now we are just going to use this format method of our string objects and pass in self.health, self.name, and the attribute self.name and the attribute self. So we are referring to this attribute now that we have assigned to the self.health. Okay, everything should work now. Okay, so now we are going to instantiate our class that we created. So let's create a class, an object of this creature called a goblin, right? So now we just say creature goblin. We are going to pass this init. So I told you that this init means we are initializing or instantiating our creature object. So when you are doing it for the first time, when we are creating a new object from this creature class, we will pass in this, and if we are not passing the self, this self is automatically passed in as this instance of this object. So we are just going to pass in the name, which is called the goblin. Then the health status, let's say its health status now is 92, right? So it told us that the creature has been created. So now we can access this display info method from our creatures class that we created. So go back to goblin. You can say print. Okay, you can just call it, since it's already a print, goblin dot display. Creation name is goblin and health is 90. So now you see that when we create a class now, we can organize our code. Our code can be organized and reused multiple times. So now let me just show you one last example. I can use the same code that's organized that has different attributes and methods. I can create another creature, let's say a dragon, with the same class, and change this to dragon, I can organize code, I can organize variable, I can organize various other things. Let's change this to 4. Let's call this features created. Then let's call the dragon display method the feature display method. Feature created dragon health is 24. So we can use this one class we created, this one object, to refer to create so many creatures. You understand? So let me just go a brief rundown on what this is. So a class is like a blueprint or template for creating objects. It defines the structure and behavior of objects that belongs to it, right? So you see that the class creature is used to create different objects of creatures, which are the goblins, the dragons, and any other creature object you want to create for your game, right? So an object is an instance created from a class. So the goblin now is the object that's created from the class creature. So then we have our attributes. So what is our attributes? Our attributes are variables that are created inside a class. So we have two types of attributes. We have our object attribute and we have our class attribute. So this one that has the self.name is called a object attribute. So to create a class attribute, what we simply need to do, let's just copy this up and say, just like you create like a normal, let's say, game name, call it D&D, right? So this object attribute, this class attribute, it's going to be on all of your instance of your creature class, which means this does not change. As long as you're going to call your class, this class attribute will not change, but your object attribute changes with each iteration of your class. That's why you can see that this one that I use itself, when I try to display it, it gives us the new name that we've passed in here, which one we're instantiating our creatures for the goblin, right? So this is what an attribute simply means. So you can have different type of attributes and all of that. So your method, which is the function, are like the actions or behavior of that your object. So for example, the display method, it simply prints out the fact that our creature's name and the creature's health, right? Sometimes you need to understand about classes that a class can inherit from itself. So let me just give you a brief example of that. Okay. Let me just show you the class. Create another one. Let's just copy this site. The same thing. Then access this method inside here. This method game name. So you can see it pops it up for us. You can see D&D. Even if I use the dragon, it will still give me the same class attribute. It doesn't change. See, it gives us the same thing. So the next thing we want to understand how to inherit other class. So say we have a creature now. They want to have another creature that, let's say, it's an livestock class, right? And this livestock class must inherit this display method and this initialization method, right? So what we do now is we simply, to inherit from this, we simply create another class, call it livestock stock. Then to inherit from the parent class, we have to pass in our parent class as a parameter, right? Pass it in as a parameter. Then once we've passed this parameter, we want to add a new method called feed eating. Let's call it eating. And this method just prints out I am eating. So Now let's instantiate this livestock. Let's see if in fact it inherits this method and this method from our parent class. So this child class is also called your derived class. So let's instantiate this. Let's say goat, for example. Goat is now livestock. Livestock. Then we pass in the name which we inherited from this init, this initialization. The name, let's call it goat, and its health, let's call it 44. You see that it's inherited from this, and we're able to run this print method. We can also run the goat.display method. Yeah, you can see this. Then we can also run this, our new method we created. Eating is it taking anything? Okay, there's a mistake we made right over here. Like I told you, you must include yourself for it to be considered a method that works. Right? So let's pass this in again. Let's just go straight to here, since we know that one already works. As you can see, it works perfectly. So you must use the self when you are creating a method. You must include the self keyword for Python to know that this, in fact, is referring to this instance of this class. Yeah. So you can also change the init value as well. There's what is called overriding a method. So say you want to change this display right over here like this. Let's copy this code, this some livestock in, and want to change what the display method does. Let me copy this again. Pass in ourselves. Always make sure to pass yourself. Okay. Then want to print something. Let's say print I'm an animal. I'm a livestock, bro. Then the name of the animal. So be precise. Then do eat me. Passing your format method on your string. Passing self.name. So we are also inheriting the attribute as well from the parent class. I am a livestock, bro. A go to be precise, do eat me. So we have changed the values of our method, right? So now let's instantiate it. We have changed the value of our method, of our display method. Let's see if it changes, if we have successfully changed the value from the parent class as well. So let's pass in the goat.display. See, I'm a livestock, bro. A go to be precise, do eat me. So you can see that you can inherit from a class that already exists. So you don't have to create the same thing over and over again. You can just use one code, create your main class, where you are creating subsequent classes that also has different other individual items in it. For example, now, say we have a mammal class that has another dog class. So you inherit from the mammal class to your dog, which has its own attributes and its own methods. So inherit to your dog class. Then when you're instantiating your dog class, which has an individual instance, for example, you have a dog named Felix, a dog named Uberis, any other item you're using, you are straight up taking all the actions, all the methods, and all the attributes from your dog class, which also inherits from your main class, and it can go on and on and on, as many as you want to. So, and you can only inherit in Python, you can only inherit from one parent class at a time. So, if you have any question about objects, classes, and everything, you can leave it in the question and answer section, or you can leave a comment and I'll get to you as soon as possible.